this issue with retired Los Angeles Police Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey. She's the author of Black and Blue. She also spent 2 decades in the LAPD. Her assignments including vice, narcotics, and gangs. Ms. Dorsey, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we just heard from the Atlanta mayor and the Houston mayor there saying that we need to support the police, yes, but what about this issue of defunding? It's not disbanding, it's restructuring. Where do you stand in this issue?
Listen, I don't even know what that means. Our mayor here in Los Angeles is going to take money from the police department and put it where? He says that this is going to help people be able to complain about police abuse. Are you kidding me? Police Chief Michael Moore has no appetite for hiring people who look like me to be on the Los Angeles Police Department. And if Mayor Garcetti wanted to compel his police chief to do something about errant police officers, how about we fire those when we identify them as having abused their authority, violated policy?
Right. This isn't an idea that's come out of nowhere. This, restructuring the police departments came from the killing of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. But what pressure would this put on cities if they look to restructure police departments vis-a-vis their relationships with police unions?
Well, listen, the unions are a lobbying arm of the police department, and so they have a function, and part of it is to coddle and shelter police officers who commit misconduct. What needs to happen is it's real simple. It's not rocket science. Accountability. How do you have a police officer like Derek Chauvin on a police department with 18 personnel complaints? Why do we have to wait until an officer does something that makes national news before they decide to get that person off the police department? And listen, in Buffalo, New York, you have 57 officers who cowardly decided to quit the emergency response team, not quit the department, because I think if they were really about that life, they would have quit wholesale the department, to support an officer who shoved a 75-year-old man. And now the mayor in Buffalo is trying to explain that this guy was told to leave and he didn't, and somehow that justified those officers. If sense were common, everyone would have it. If that 75-year-old man was violating the law, then why didn't they just arrest him? You don't shove people down. And
you have to wonder if there wasn't video where we would be right now with that story, with the George Floyd story. So here we are in 2020. We remember the Rodney King riots that happened after he was beaten. Bizarrely, I was hired by CNN on that day after watching that all day long my television set. But what is it about the training of police officers and the weeding out of ones that aren't up for the job? The training hasn't worked. Not even the body cams have worked.
It's not the training. It's that the officers understand that police chiefs are going to minimize and mitigate bad behavior because they want to protect the entity. And when they protect the entity, sometimes the officers benefit. And so, listen, if you don't do anything to deter the bad behavior, why would Derek Chauvin do anything different? He sat with great pride and arrogance on Mr. Floyd's neck for over 8 minutes, knowing he was being recorded, knowing that people were asking to intervene and get him to stop. And he sat there, and he sat there because 18 previous times he had been engaged in probable police misconduct, and nothing ever came of it. So he was on his way to complaint number 19, only this time it ended in a death that we all watched.
And this time we are seeing protests all over this country, 12 days of it. We're seeing protests around the world. Of course, we've had protests, after Ferguson and after other police brutality issues. Is this the issue? Is this the moment that we might see change within police departments?
Well, not as long as you have police chiefs and mayors get on TV and lie about what we saw, lie about real reform, real justice, real accountability. They're being intellectually dishonest when they pretend that taking money from one place and moving it to another place somehow is going to stop a police officer from using deadly force as a first resort rather than a last resort. The two have no connection.
Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey, we appreciate your insights. You were in the business for 20 years. We really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie.
Well, that